So, hello there. My name is Sharkov, and I currently work as a backend engineer for XXIX, but only until the end of this year. And then I'm going to work on the future of the internet, but I'm not going to spoil that. And here a quick recap. Actually, even though I'm mostly specialized in backend development, I have been working on or collaborating on or been involved on projects or actually designed some of the projects that involved web UI development or UIs that are web-based. And some of those you already know, it's like Tutti, Globus, and so on. And some of my startups. All of those have one thing in common, like not all of those, but most of the recent ones, one thing in common, they are a SPA. A single page application. And I put this poodle there because that's the poodle my wife really wants to have. So a SPA, or a single page application, is essentially a JavaScript application that you load into your browser once, and then it kind of acts as an application inside the browser. Then it continues to do some JSON requests and parses the JSON, does some state synchronization, and then finally renders your final UI. And first of all, I would like to ask you, how many of you have been involved or been building UIs, web-based UIs? Yeah, quite a few, surprisingly. Okay. How many of you actually did it from scratch, like wrote your own applications, like your web application, like HTML and stuff, JavaScript? Okay, quite a few, surprisingly. Then you are probably familiar with this situation because just recently, like a year ago, I started working on a side project with a friend of mine, which is essentially a search engine with AI. And it started to need a front end for end users. And I sat down and I thought to myself, well, I'm going to write we have a lot of backend services in Go, so I'm going to write up an open API specification for an API, and then I'm going to take some Deno2 maybe, and some SvelteKit, and then I'm going to write this in JavaScript, as I usually do. But time is of essence, and those of you who have already worked on SPAs actually know this. You kind of have this, I think you understand the feeling when you see this, because modern web application development has become, well, complex. And I think, in my humble opinion, it became complex because of two things, mostly. And first of all is state and state synchronization. Like you're trying to synchronize the state that you have at the server to the client. And the second thing that is very complicated, and especially in a long-living application that you have to maintain over years, is the API contracts. Because, well, you have to define it, you have to design it, you have to maintain it, and you have to keep it backward compatible, and there's all sorts of problems that arise from that. But you know what? If only there was a thing that could actually help us avoid all that mess. And you know what? I found it recently, and it's called hypertext markup language. And actually, other than JSON, like the browsers don't speak JSON. When you open up a JSON, it just spits text because it doesn't understand it. It just reads it as text. But you know what? I found out that hypertext markup language can actually be rendered into some boxes and stuff, and not just text.
I think that's the future.
Yes, I think that's the future. That is it. And the approach to developing applications using mostly HTML is usually called a multi-page application, or MPAS. And a very popular example for an MPA in the Go ecosystem is actually the package.go.dev website itself. It does have a few, does have some jQuery here and there, but mostly it's just CSS and HTML. Well, I wanted to start building my application using the MPA approach because it very much simplified the development of what I was trying to build. I wasn't trying to build something very complex. But I quickly realized that we wanted some features that, with this approach, would be very limited, like the interactivity would be very limited. There would be no fancy designer UIs and no fancy animations mostly. We would suffer sometimes from full page reloads, which would reset the state of the application, which drastically decreases user experience. And also, developer experience kind of sucked, especially when I had to deal with Go native templates from the standard library. And so I sat down and I was trying to find ways to procrastinate doing the actual applications. And in the process, I found a few tools and an approach to building a web application, modern web applications, that I found very interesting. And actually built a demo, a tech demo for it. We'll see it later. The approach that I discovered is now called the islands architecture. And you will now see why it's called that way. Basically, if you take a look at some of the modern, recent websites like Medium, for example, you will see a pattern emerge from the fact that most of the stuff on a Medium page is just content. It's images, videos, it's text. And some of the stuff is actually interactable. Like, for example, the search, the clapping hands, the buttons that open up some menus. Those usually are implemented with JavaScript, and they are client-side logic. Or take it as an example, YouTube. YouTube also has a few islands on their content, basically, like the videos where you can scroll already on the preview. Those require JavaScript. And the island architecture is basically based on the principle that you have a mostly content-driven website with islands of interactivity. And those islands can be implemented with JavaScript. Now it's demo time, and I hope the demo gods sacrificed enough for the demo gods to allow me to present it. So here is an application that I built. It's a tech demo. And first, let's start with actually switching the theme because I don't want to be blinded. And there we go. We changed the theme. And let's sign in. Oh, it's actually just a tech demo, right? There is no sign in. Okay. But there was another button.
Usually?
Sure. Of course.
Oh.
So it's responsive as well, yeah?
Yes, sure. And yeah, let's actually add an order. There's some concept of orders here. That's it. Yeah, we get a drawer opened. Okay, I didn't want that. I just wanted to. Yeah, okay, it's the same drawer. All right. So let's start with a company name, shall we? Something. Yeah, and then me. Okay, and then I misspelled my name. Doesn't matter. And then, yeah, let's give it a fake email. I don't like to receive some. Yeah, it doesn't let me. Okay, yeah, then we have to actually put in the correct one. This is my phone number. Oh no, it doesn't work as well. So here we go. Let's do the country. Germany. And some postal code. And some city. Okay, I don't know many cities. Let's just start with A. There's Aachen, there's Aalborg, there's okay. What do we get? What do we get with A? Kalan. Okay, yeah. Kabul. Yeah, right. What you're seeing here is actually interactively happening on the front end side, and it uses some JavaScript. And the list of cities here is actually coming from the server. So I get the autocomplete because I was living in private, so let's find private. There we go. Now we can select basically one of the cities that the server has and that the client doesn't have to load into the HTML fully. So this is an dynamic autocomplete. Then we'll have to select some dates. Yeah, that's in the past. There we go, that fixes it. And then we can also select a shipping company for this order to execute, and it is going to be fast. Yeah, another special notes, anything we might want to find in the order, and then we can edit. There we go, we just added an order, but that was way too tedious, so let's just randomize stuff and then edit. Yeah, that's good, that's fast. Add a few ones here. And this one is going to Kadiri. Yeah, all right. What if we type it into the search? There we go, we found it. What if we want to find something for this zip code? Ah, we don't. All right, doesn't matter. But for this email, oh no, I don't want to send you. My brother worked on parts of this, and he really thought this is a good idea to make it clickable. So we also don't find it. This is interesting. What if we just look for his last name? We will probably gonna find something, and there we go. So this is just some rudimentary search hacked together yesterday, but the whole concept of an application being dynamic, interactive. A lot of the time, I heard that with the tool set that I did it with, you can't do this. Because, well, it's just for toys, it's just for some side projects, but it's never going to be useful for some enterprise level application. But it turns out you can actually build it that way. And one thing I really want to show you as well is what if the network behaves slowly, for example, and we're going to reload the page. You see, the subtle thing you noticed is that you didn't notice much at all because there was no content cumulative layout shift, SCLS. And well, when you open up a website and things start popping up and things start moving, and so it's not so good. It doesn't contribute to a good user experience. And as you can see, this application clearly loads the content first, so you see it, and then it tries to load the dynamic parts eventually. So much for the demo. Let's actually show you the tech stack it was built with. Some of those may be familiar with you, but there is one tool that is actually new and that I had to build on my own. It is called Templier, because when I realized I started using, instead of the native Go templates from the standard library, I realized it's just too slow, and it's also not very developer friendly. And when I write actual like application spas with JavaScript, it feels much nicer to work with in the first place. And those Go templates, they really didn't do a good job, and that's what we use Temple for. Temple is, I'm going to show you now, what it is basically a templating engine that generates Go code from the templates that we give it. And it's fast. Then another worthy mention is the Shoelace Components library. It's a library of fully styled, fully fledged web components that you can just plug and play into your project and use as if you were using HTML. And obviously XXIX, the hot thing on the market everyone is talking about, is actually a very thin layer of JavaScript that your app requires to just fetch new parts of the page and replace them. Lit is a library, but I use it as a tool. I use it as a compiler to build my web components, because some web components that I really require, like for example the autocomplete, well, I didn't find it in Shoelace, and I didn't manage to do it with Alpine. Where is Alpine here? Is there any Alpine? There we go. Alpine is another small JavaScript framework that allows you to do very simple logic within your templates to just glue together some parts of the page. And some components really are too complex to implement with Alpine. So instead, I used Glit for that. So let me quickly show you the development environment where I already have Temple started. And yeah, let's add a few new orders, shall we? There we go. There we go. And I will show you now the template that I used. Oh, this is template configuration. We need the template temple file. And this is the actual template that is rendering into this nicely looking page. As you can see, we have all the syntax highlighting. We even have, like, for example, if I were to find the order, let's add an order. No, that's not it. Must be somewhere here. Yeah, basically we have this page index, which is a template in Temple. And then it includes the HTML main document template. And inside this, we just include the view of the index. And eventually, we can change something in here. For example, this order that I'm going to find eventually. The component order form, that is not what I'm looking for. This is the view, and there we have the skeleton. Oh, that's a navigation bar, and there is the orders. We're iterating over the orders with regular Go code. It's Go code within HTML. Remember PHP? Yeah, let's change that and let's rewrite it to this is an order. And there we go. It just updated. And it broke the state of the application just because it had to recompile the templates and recompile the application, and all the state is in memory for several reasons. So as you can see, it quickly reloads. And there we go. We can work with it very nicely. But what if we change something in the Go code, like the standard Temple file reloader is actually not that nice in the sense that it doesn't reload your page when the Go code changes, only when the templates change. But what if I go into my server.go, and here I have translations for different countries. And let's rename Germany to beer. There we go. It updated. I can open up, and there we have beer. Nice. And when we change it back to Germany, the page should update, and then we are going to see Belgium. Never mind. It's just not sorted. There we go. It's Germany again. So as you can see, I can very quickly change things. It will update, and I constantly see the latest state of the application. But the great thing about this is that Templier also includes all the other files, like for example the TypeScript files that I have for this application. And if I break them, let's, for example, try to break the input autocomplete for demo reasons. Let's break the syntax. There we go. It says, your bundle cannot be generated. So you have an error there. Let's fix it. There we go. It's fixed. And let's break Go. Bam. There is some problems with Golang CI lint. And some problems with Go going on, so we have to fix it. There we go. So everything is tightly coupled and updated live. The developer experience really feels like you're building a modern web application. So let's go back to the slides. So this is the entire tech stack. And the nice thing about it is, this is called the Lighthouse score. And it tries to measure the quality of your website. And a 100, 100, 100, 100 score is not something you see very often. And this stack actually allows you to achieve a very, very high quality website or web application. And the really, really good part is there is less than 23% JavaScript involved. With just 45-ish% of Go and some 25-ish% of template files, we were able to build this highly interactive application. And I think this is a very interesting approach. Maybe it's not going to replace SPAs for most of you, but this has become very interesting. First, thanks to Temple. Second, thanks to Templier. And you may check it out on GitHub. It's all open source. You may even try to do some benchmarking on it. I just didn't have the time just yet. But before I end my talk, I would like to thank Sebastian Wege. I'd like to thank Daniel Trishkin, Daniel Sharkov, my brother, who have helped make this possible, and obviously my wife, because without them, I wouldn't be able to do this at all. Thank you very much. Oh, we still have around 9-ish minutes for questions, so please, if anyone has any questions.
Are you running this in production yet?
It depends on what you call production. Yes-ish. So, sorry?
What is the production?
Basically like a search engine that isn't public yet.
Okay.
How do these islands work? So you need to say in advance what
Sure.
should be the size of the island, right?
If you want to eliminate the CLS, the layout shift, of course, first thing you have to do is you have to tell the browser how big is that thing going to be. Because the browser first fetches the content it can, and it renders as fast as it can because it wants to show you something. But some components may require, like for example, if we were to slow this web page down to 3G, and we were to reload it from scratch. This is not it. This is performance. There we go. And we were to reload it from scratch, we'll see that the browser starts fetching stuff. And once it has enough stuff to render something, it will. Don't look at this weird box in the right. I wasn't able to fix this in the time. So, but on the other boxes, as you can see, I have reserved some space for the button. There we go. I have reserved some space, and then eventually use a bit like a CSS trick, which has a selector that looks for the contents inside that inside the skeleton. And once the contents of the skeleton, the web components actually initialize and render, they're going to be replaced. And so it's very, very fast and actually quite easy to do. And this is how I eliminated the CLS with the skeleton wrappers I can actually show in the templates. There we go. Like this is one skeleton. I tell it the width and the height, and the component actually goes inside. Yeah,
where is the HTMX used?
The HTMX is used, for example, on the search and on the new orders. So
It's not used for all in all the islands, only in some of them.
Again?
It's not used in all of the islands of internet.
No. The islands are client side. They're JavaScript.
Right.
So essentially, if you look at SL, what's the best example here? SL dialog. Like if we were to, I slowed it down. There we go. And I added. The component here, the SL dialog, it is actually, oh, that's not the, anyway, the dialog is in here. Oh, come on. The dialog is in here. Like this dialog is client-side only. It doesn't get rendered by the server.
Right.
And it is implemented fully with Shoelace. So SL is for Shoelace, and you just import the components library into your HTML, and it starts working as custom elements, web components, basically.
Right.
And the thing I'm using HTMX for is, for example, when I click randomize, it needs some data from the server, and it replaces this form, essentially, with the new form that has some stuff filled in. Or when I start searching, like the search, input is here. It's also a Shoelace component, but it has the HTMX tags or attributes that allow me to replace this viewport by fetching stuff from the server. So everything that is like logical that is happening here, there's no presentational, is happening on the server. And this is the great thing about it. Like the whole validation you just saw, it all happens on the server. There is no single line of code that does validation on the client.
Thank you.
Yes.
I imagine you had to implement your own parser for this specific language because this is template language, right?
No. I didn't have to implement it. It's basically Temple has its own tool chain for watching templates and rebuilding them. But I built a nice shell around it that also watches everything else, that executes custom watchers, that builds your JavaScript, that builds your TypeScript, your CSS, minifies that, whatever, does everything like this.
So the mix syntax HTML plus Go is Temple.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Exactly. And for a template, you just need a YAML file, and in the YAML file, for example, here I have a custom watcher for bundling CSS. So I say whenever those files have changed, you have to exclude those as well. You have to just run build CSS, and then you suddenly have a new bundle.
So template is more like Grunt or what's the other one?
It is highly optimized for Temple.
Yes.
It is highly optimized for Temple specifically. Like there is some hot reload tools for Go already, like Air, for example. But me including and many other people have used Air and similar tools for lighter loading Temple, and it's just sometimes not as great as it could be. Like for example, with the errors and the state of the application when something breaks in the code, and therefore I had to build a tool that actually knows about that stuff that actually code can break. And you have to show it instead of the last state of the application.
Like the error messages that we were seeing, those
Yes.
come from Temple.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Template is also on GitHub, so please give it a start. All right. Any? Yeah, go on.
Do you also have a mechanism to determine when to enforce a reload of the page? Because with those like in a casual or like typical client server setup, you have like a getter contract that you might request to an API with versioning and so on. So, but in this kind of like templating world, then you have a kind of like a tight coupling.
Yeah.
And the user might then have like a stale front end, might only click like a refresh button, and then you could have a lot of changes in that.
Very good question. Very good question. I asked myself that question when I started working on this approach. And I found some clues. I didn't need them yet, but it is something I'm going to implement for this demo as well. I just didn't have enough time. Essentially, you can also do versioning. And you should realize when you have a stale client, you just reload to a particular valid state completely.
I once read up something, I think it was in the Elixir community. They did something very similar also, those kind of templatings.
Yeah.
And they had like their ways and hacks and magic to determine when to, like at which point in the hierarchy to enforce a reload.
Yeah, you can make it very complicated. That's true. But usually with this approach, I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. But with the demo, I tried to show you like, this is not just for fun side project apps. Like you can build real stuff with that. and the demo shows gives you some hints on how to do certain stuff. And I would love to implement that as well as soon as I have the time. I'm just leaving for vacation, and yeah, don't expect it in the coming 2 weeks.
Oh, so